The Vikings were exemplary sailors, navigators, and daring explorers who constantly pushed beyond the next horizon. The period, commonly referred to as the Viking Age, describes when people from Scandinavia violently expanded their influence into Europe. The word Viking epitomizes ferocity, conquest, and adventure. Join us in this Liber-Tea episode as we travel back in time to explore the most famous period of the Viking civilization. The first months of 793 CE were quite worrying. Anglo-Saxon writers later remember how common tremendous flashes of lightning, whirlwinds, and fiery dragonflies were. As the society back then was highly superstitious, most people, including the clergy, thought the aerial phenomena to be signs of imminent doom. They were right. Historical records show that a great famine preceded the arrival of the Danes in 793. In mid-793, when monks at the North Umbrian island of Lindisfarne spotted dragon ships approaching, they did not think they were witnessing the beginning of the Viking Age, a period that would last until the conquest of England in 1066 by Duke William of Normandy. The monks were ill-prepared for the ferocity of the heathen men on board the dragon ships. The ferocious warriors armed with shields, axes, and swords. The attack on the rich and unprotected Catholic facility reverberated across Christendom throughout the period. It marked the official start of the Viking Age. Beginning in 793 CE, Scandinavians from Sweden, Norway, and Denmark sacked all places along the coasts of Italy, Scotland, Ireland, France, and inland Russia. For many people, Vikings were the stuff of nightmares. Sightings of their dragon-headed ships sent many villagers scuttling for dear life. The Carolingian Franks, the Anglo-Saxons of the British Isles, and even the Arabs of Cordoba all had multiple horrific clashes with the Danes. Historians of the period expressed the shock of their daring and swift attacks. Despite this, not all Danes were violent. Many were settlers and merchants who plied their trade from England to Baghdad and formed fruitful alliances with local leaders. For instance, a band of Danes became bodyguards to the emperors of the great Byzantine Empire. Additionally, they were excellent artisans and metalworkers. Their longships continue to be awe-inspiring to date. For every Dane who went back to Scandinavia rich with taking, many others perished in battle or succumbed to disease in squalid military camps. Many of them also drowned in violent ocean storms. Danish men risked everything for fame and glory, and ultimately to enter Valhalla. The most valuable ethos for the Danes was courage. The religion of the Norsemen differed sharply from Christianity and Islam, which subscribed complete submission to God and abstinence from sin. Viking gods were ferocious, divine warriors whose lives were a contest of bravery. The chief of the Viking pantheon was Odin, the All-Father. The bravest Danes who fell in battle dwelt in Odin's home, Valhalla. Upon waking up from a night of feasting, the warriors would march out and engage in great battles to the death, and once again, in the evening, they would return to Valhalla for more feasting. According to the Annals of Ulster in 794, the Danes instituted a horrifying attack on Lindisfarne's mother house of Iona. Raids on the Irish coast followed the attack. Viking bases were established in Ireland. From these bases, the Norsemen, in 802, attacked Iona again, resulting in a great slaughter of the Cecily de Brethren. After looting the abbey, they burnt it to the ground. The Vikings conducted extensive campaigns in Ireland until 830. This is mainly because the Anglo-Saxons and the Carolingians could keep them off temporarily. After 830, the Danes took advantage of this disunity in the Carolingian Empire and pitted Anglo-Saxon kingdoms against each other. During the reign of Charlemagne, the Vikings devastated the Frankish kingdom. Using their longships, they often sailed up the river Seine with impunity. At the end of Charlemagne's rule, and in the entirety of his descendants' rule, the Danes gradually established a Scandinavian conquest in a region known as Normandy. In England, the Vikings continued to plunder and pillage the country's eastern and northern shores with near impunity. In 840 to 841, the Vikings raided England during winter. These raids were a surprise, as the Danes normally raided during summer. In 865, the great heathen army led by the brothers Ubba, Halfdan, and Ivar the Boneless, and another famous Viking named Guthrum, set camp in East Anglia. Within a few days, they had captured the city of York and established a thriving Viking community in Jorvik. Since most English kingdoms were in disarray, they could not withstand Viking attacks. Northumbria turned into the Northern Kingdom in 867, after its conquest by the Ragnarsson brothers. The conquerors later installed Ecgbert, an Englishman, as the kingdom's puppet king. In 870, the Summer Army arrived in England under the leadership of Bagsec and a few earls. With help from the great heathen army, the Summer Army sacked most parts of England until 871, when they decided to subdue the kingdom of Wessex. During early 871, Bagsec and his earls were murdered in the Battle of Ashdown. After the Battle of Ashdown, the Danes retreated to their base in Jorvik, the capital of the Viking kingdom in England. King Alfred of Wessex managed to keep the Danes at bay, and his successors managed to drive back the Dane frontier until they finally recaptured York. However, in 947, under the leadership of Eric Bloodaxe, Vikings recaptured York. In 1003, the Danish king Forkbeard Sven commenced a series of raids in England in reaction to the St. Brice's Day massacre of England's Viking residents. These attacks stimulated a full-scale invasion of England, leading to Forkbeard being crowned the English king in 1003. The Viking hegemony in England declined in 1066 when King Harold Godwinson of England defeated Norway's King Harald Hardrada in the Battle of Stamford Bridge. A few days after the defeat of the Norwegian king, a Norman army marched into England and captured it in the Battle of Hastings in 1066. The Normans who conquered the Anglo-Saxons were themselves the descendants of the Vikings who settled in Normandy. Thank you for listening to this episode. We hope you have enjoyed and learned something new. Like, share, and subscribe to Liber-Tea for more.